Welcome to the CP Media platform, brought to you by our wonderful sponsors, Team CP, our endurance coaching specialist. I am Angus Petrie. Alongside me, as always, our head honcho, our team captain, the man who drives the pain, Richard Greer. Welcome in.
Yep, on the front of the bus. How you doing, Angus?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good week.
Good week. Had a great week, actually. Yes, it hasn't been the most illustrious weather week, but still hasn't stopped a few indoor sessions. No,
that's right. Good to get out, put the jacket on, go for a bit of a jog around the block. It's all good stuff, isn't it? Slip and slide in the hills. Just need to get a bit of a push to get out the door sometimes, don't we? But we always feel better for it.
Oh, it is always one of those things, isn't it? Once you're out, and it's all good.
Absolutely. Nice work.
What brings us here this week, Richard?
Hey, we've got a big show, just like always, and so tonight we're gonna talk to Braden Currie shortly. He's waiting in the wings to chat to us, but we're gonna also talk to Cushla Holdaway in regards to nutrition, and she's got a topic around nighttime eating and snacking and things. She's going to talk about. We're going to talk to Laura Pattie, who's been an athlete with us for a year or so. She's achieved some pretty awesome things in mountain biking and ultra running, and we're going to kick off with Braden, get a bit of an understanding where he's at now post lockdown, where he's off to, how he's got through it, and how his training's going.
Yep. So Braden Currie, if you don't know, farm boy from Methven, to be fair, didn't like school, would rather have milked cows or been on the farm, tried to avoid school as much as he could. Yep. But found a love for running, found a love for biking and everything, multi-sport, you name it. This man has been to Kona twice now. He is an Ironman athlete. He is a Red Bull athlete, our very own Red Bull athlete. So a big welcome, Braden. Welcome.
Yes, good to be here, team. It's always funny getting introduced by people you knew when you were knee-high to a grasshopper. Obviously, you know my path well and truly. So it's great. Yeah, it's good to be here. Always fun to catch up.
I did try and leave some of the some bits out there, Braden. You did challenge us before to find some boundaries, but I thought maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, well, I know there's plenty of family parties that I don't know. Maybe it would be easier to come up with stories with you than me. So maybe you're scared.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope, isn't it? Yep. Tell us a story, Braden, to kick off. Tell us a story about how you got into running. There was something on your Instagram page today around how you started running, how you got out and about and away from, I guess, more of an interest outside of the farm.
It's probably good timing. Today was a post on thanks to ASICS pushing that one out there as Run to Feel campaign. And a lot of it was about how I found running, what sort of inspired me to, it is a bit of a weird sport, isn't it? Like actually getting into it as a sport rather than just running to chase a rugby ball or something is a bit different. So, we're lucky enough. James Roderick was our PE teacher at school, but also an avid coast-to-coaster, multi-sporter, passionate outdoors man. And I think he was actually training to do the longest day with my brother. At that point in time, Glenn was at Teachers College, and I think maybe he just needed a training hack, or maybe he wanted to help me out. But he dragged me out on some trail runs, got me into the hills, set one of my PBs into Woolshed Creek Hut or Pinnacles Hut and back out again. That was a lot of it that I probably wouldn't have done myself. And he started steering bit of a path for me, which got me into, I guess, trail running, and that evolved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You touched base with me. I don't know what year it was. I was teaching at the time, halfway through a class, and I got a call from you. And this guy Braden Currie wants me to coach him, and like, pretty busy at the time. I'll have a think. I'll come back to you. But we kicked off. We started, and that you were in Aussie at the stage, weren't you? Where were you at that point?
Yeah, I vividly remember that. It was that was quite cool, to be honest, and I'm always grateful and thankful to this day that you took me on and gave me a bit of guidance there too. So we had moved to Australia with our son. He was 6 months at that point in time, and we'd been there for a couple of years. We started a mountain biking company, and I decided I wanted to get back into a little bit of racing, a bit of multisport. I think I'd done the 2-day coast to coast before we headed over. But I wanted to take it on a little bit more seriously, and you were the port of call to coach me, and that was awesome. And it's kind of the beginning of I guess from then till now, what are we, 10, 11 years of racing professionally was the beginning of it.
And that was the goal, wasn't it? I want to make this, can I make this a lifestyle for myself right back in the starting point?
Yeah, we don't really do things by halves. Obviously, working with my wife, Sally, and myself, she's always pretty optimistic and pretty keen to make sure, it sticks, and we steer the ship in the right direction. And at that point in time, we really wanted to move back to New Zealand and be home. And racing was a big reason for that. I wanted to be able to race multisport. I wanted to be based in Whaka in New Zealand. And taking it professionally was actually one sort of path we could see. If we knew at that point in time how little it paid and how financially ruined we would be, if we chose that path, then maybe we would have stayed in Australia and kept charging with the mountain bike company. But I guess you can be blinded by success in a lot of ways, and you don't really look into things that much. You just see the glory and what you really want to achieve within success, and that was probably what we were driven by at that point in time. We didn't do our numbers, we just sort of chased winning.
It is an amazing story, Braden, actually, the fact that a couple of people from New Zealand living in Australia at the time, but have this dream of becoming a professional athlete, because I'm sure as many of us watch sports on television and across the internet and things, and the dream of being a professional cyclist or a professional Ironman or whatever, and that dream is just so far-fetched, and a lot of us are well after our time when we start thinking, shit, that would have been a cool thing to do. But at what point did you actually go, that's actually, don't laugh, Richard, we're all getting on.
You've been finding yours in the last few years, eh?
That's right. Some of us are late starters to the game. There's absolutely no hiding from that. But how fit were you? How successful were you at that point? You went, I think I can make this, or we're going to make this, or were you like way from the game before, a mile away from being there when you actually made that decision?
Well, in my mind, I was probably there, and in Richard's mind, I was a mile away from the game. But I had the belief that I was there, I'd say, or the determination to believe I was there, or race like I was there, even if I wasn't there. When we first committed to it, I hadn't done a longest day coast to coast, committed to coming back to New Zealand to give that a good nudge, and that was the beginning. And all I had sort of raced in those last few years was a few, I guess, the Anaconda series in Australia, and I guess the belief of that 10 years time I would be racing in the top 10 in the world for Ironman, which is probably a sport I didn't even know existed when I started multisport. So it was a long way away, and I think a lot of what I learned is, I guess, that journey, you can always choose goals, you can always set these goals, but the journey always changes them. And I think I've enjoyed the fact that I have had the ability to change completely different tacks, I guess, with what I do and kind of the disciplines that I race.
And it started, didn't it, with Coast Longest Day? How did you talk us through the stepping stones? Third the first year?
Yeah, was it? I think it was third. Yeah,
and then
third, then win.
Yeah. Win and win, I think, wasn't it? From
third, win and win. Did I get three? I think I got three, didn't I?
I think you've got three, something like that.
Yeah, 3 wins in a row after that, and then Clarkie beat me the year after that. So 4 longest days, something like that. I guess that first year was very challenging. I found that I guess the endurance base wasn't set, and I was just stepping into the unknown. And you were there with me, obviously, to steer me in the right direction, and probably threw a lot down early, as I tend to do, and suffered a lot in the end, the rest of the day, and got to watch Dougal come into his own that year with the fastest bike split, and he fair stormed past me, and I grovelled my way back into Sumner.
You've been a big one about belief, haven't you? And also, as you mentioned, just about just throwing it down. That's just the way you race. You don't race off the back. I think I saw a thing on was it a Zwift race that you were actually, maybe I should sit in the pack a little bit more rather than just race off the front. How's that in terms of your racing when you are racing your Ironman events? How do you go just kind of tempering that, managing that pacing element, knowing that, hey, I just want to give it heaps because I enjoy racing from the front?
Yeah, it's a really hard thing. I get a lot from, like, there's a lot of stimulus that's gained from racing at the front, like that's the exciting part of racing, is being at the front of the race. And when you're sitting 20th, but maybe you're going to run through at the end, it's not that exciting. Like, you feel like you're completely out of the race. So it's something that I have been obviously having to face and deal with. And racing in the world champs kind of level, there's it's just phenomenal cyclists and stuff that are just blowing you to pieces, and having to accept that. But I guess the biggest thing I've been working on lately is setting like baseline power heart rate, like a baseline that I know I can't go under in a way. So, and then when I feel good and I want to have my normal self come out, then going for it. But yeah, trying to manage. I manage it so I can still race. I can still be me. I can still kind of be aggressive when I want to be and push it on the hills or something. But knowing that there's even just a mental anchor, which is a number that I know that I can't go under. Otherwise, I won't be in the race when the time comes when I need to be. So, yeah, a lot of it hasn't been about measuring a top end, like putting a cap on the top end. Now I'm actually trying to put a cap on the bottom end.
So
nice.
as a preference, though, in a race situation, does Braden Currie prefer to control the race and control the speed and like run it or ride it as fast as you can, or are you a pace and chase preference? Like, would you rather sit back and just chase your way back through, or would you rather be controlling it?
I'd rather be controlling it. Yeah, as I said, I get a lot of stimulus from it. If I can, I've always found, I've had my best races when I've been able to be at the front, and that lead just seems to grow and grow and grow. Where when you're battling with, I guess, adversity, when you're behind, it's quite a different mental game, and it's a lot more challenging to push yourself that hard when you're looking at a 6-8 minute deficit. Where when you're 3 or 4 minutes up, for some reason, you can keep on going with it and you keep on rolling with it, and it's quite often the gap kind of keeps growing. I guess a good example was Ironman Asia Pacific Championships last year. Managed to have a good swim, come out of the water with the front three, and then break away on the bike. And I think I managed to take it out to like a 13-minute lead off the bike, and then run it out to like a 25-minute lead down the finishing chute without actually trying, and running one of my fastest marathons. So I guess that stimulus of just being out front tends to make it a lot easier. But obviously you don't have that all the time, so you got to have some tools to figure it out when you don't have that.
And so that, like, does that mean like you're like from a rhythm type running? Like that means you can just run, can't you? When you're running like that, it's just rhythm rather than just trying to battle and hurt and fight and things like that. Do you find that you're trying to constantly sort of find that place when you're trying to run off the bike at that level?
Yeah, you do. You think when you're getting, it's a lot harder when you're getting pushed by athletes to stay in a rhythm and kind of just let the time pass, I guess. So yeah, in some ways it's easier when you're out by yourself and you've got your own pacing going on. to find that just keep turning it over, and I guess time seems to go a little bit faster too. So that's been good. But I guess again, Kona this year was another ball game where I had to come from a long way back, and in the heat and in those environments, then I guess finding an ability to pace was a big key to me actually still not having too bad a race.
What are some of your go-tos when you are in the hurt? Like, you've been in some, I mean, it's just like, it's a horrendous sport that you do when you think about it, like just racing it right at the limit for hours and hours and hours, and crazy conditions and the heat and the wind and all that sort of stuff that you go through. And it comes down to a running race at the end. How much can you hurt to keep pushing? How do you keep pushing? How do you keep turning your body inside out to be able to perform at that level?
Yeah, I mean, I look at like Kona, not last year, the year before, that hurt. Well, like I haven't been in that much hurt on that run probably ever in my life, really. Like that was just last 10K of that run for some reason just absolutely nearly killed me, I reckon. But I was in a battle for fourth, and I had to keep on pushing it and try and find that, I guess, stimulus to keep going. My daughter's coming down the stairs. But I guess a lot of that is driven by the want and the drive for competition, and from the family, and the kids have been there as well. There's so many different things that come into it when you're hurting that much. But I in some ways, those are the character building times too. Like those are the reasons that we actually do race, and sometimes that's what I think about. I actually go, well, why do I race? And it's like, well, sometimes I actually enjoy being challenged. I enjoy being pushed really hard, and that's what the sport does, and that's what those times kind of give me. So trying to turn it around and find a reason to support why I push it.
One thing you mentioned back in the day when you were getting up and underway in your professional career, you were doing it for your kids, you were doing it for your family, you were doing it for something that was greater than you and for somebody else, weren't you? And often you always push much harder when you're doing it for someone else opposed to just doing it for yourself. The games changed a lot for me too. Like we were doing it for the kids, and I guess I was younger and I felt like I had a lot more to prove. Like I really wanted to beat people. Like I've had a lot of, I guess, aggression, well, not physical aggression or anger, but want to beat people. And I guess a lot of that, in some ways, that competitiveness has faded out now. And probably the financial thing, like back then, like we're literally racing for every dollar, every dollar counted, and kept us going. Like we were so broke that we had to win. We had to win races every time we went to China. Like I had to find a way to make money, and every time I went on a start line, that I had to find a way to be able to afford to be there. Where I guess these days we've obviously managed to get to a point where we're not so financially bound to winning in particular. And it's definitely opened a new facet of racing and my career. And I'd say now more than anything, I enjoy, I guess that when you like the high performance, like the real kind of pinnacle stuff, it's probably what's kept me an Ironman in a way that it's so measurable, and there's so many, there's factors that get thrown out there, but it's not like coast to coast where you have a whoopsie in your boat and kind of your day's over, or and you can only race it once a year. But it's like there's so many real set targets that you can make, whether it's power on the bike or pace in the run and the marathon, and training can be so much more calculated. And I guess I kind of enjoy that now, that ability to be so focused and driven and see how far, like I guess physically, or how good I can get. Mm-hmm. Just driving to see how, and that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing for you now, is that how good can I be, and where's my performance? And as you're still improving, eh?
So was there a change in?
I hope so.
Sort of delay there. When you're running for your dinner, essentially for those early years there when you were, you really were looking for every dollar to keep it. I know a bit about that, and it was just absolutely outstanding the way you and your family actually dealt with all of that and pushed your way through to where you are. But when you're running for an income, I mean, you're still running for an income now, but when you were running for every dollar, and we'll just use running as the term, that obviously bought drive, right? So it bought drive to be able to get there. I guess in the back of your head, you needed to win this thing. You needed a dollar. But is it actually like, I suppose there's that drive, but what I'm trying to say is now that you've got a little, you've got some sponsors and you've got all those things, and that pressure's now not there, does that actually release the body and actually enable it to actually go further again and actually now really meet its potential? Was it holding you back, that drive?
It made me, I think, in a lot of ways. I've always been relatively more money driven. Like winning money was big, and we were laughing before how we used to fly to Aussie and race, and we'd do this, the Anaconda race and come away with $1,500, and by the time we paid it up, we probably made $300, but that was huge. We made $300 out of racing. That was great. So I was quite driven by making the money out of it, but now does it free me up? The fact, it does. It means that I don't have to race as often. It means that I can afford to, periodize my year more. Obviously, COVID's throwing a big spanner in the works, but if we're thinking pre-COVID, then we can fly direct to places and not travel via 10 different destinations to get there on the cheapest flight possible. We can stay in a nicer hotel, not one that was in the next town. We can afford to eat. We eat really well. Nutrition, food, diet is a big part of, eating healthy is a big part of what we do. I can afford to, have people to help support me in what I do. I obviously always had a coach, but strength and conditioning comes into it more. So having the ability to pay to have a direct strength conditioning coach to actually be there with me in the gym. As you guys know, my ability to read and study and have a program was never my strong point. So that's been a big gain, is actually having someone standing there with me every day. Not every day, but a few days a week, managing my strength and conditioning, managing my real key bike sessions, managing my key run sessions. And that financial ability, I'd say, I hope that I've improved in the last few years with having that freedom.
Want to jump into some training and get a bit of an idea of where you're at now and how you're getting on. I had a conversation with a guy in Ashburton yesterday, and he said, I always see these fantastic photos of Braden out running and cycling and all this sort of stuff, but I never see him in the gym. You keep telling me that I need to do the gym stuff, but Braden doesn't seem to. Tell us what you do there. We want a bit of a shout out to sort of try and pump that up, that it's actually kind of important.
Yeah, well, I kind of do some big pull-ups, lots of upper body stuff, as you can imagine. What have I found? I've been doing quite specific strength and conditioning probably for the last year and a half now with Val Burke, who I've been working with as a coach, but she does all my strength and conditioning stuff as well, and I'd say her strongest facet is the background of strength and conditioning in sport. So that's been quite interesting, just not going to the gym and pumping weights, but how do you cross over the actual power sessions? How do you cross over those strength sessions into your training throughout the week? Obviously, there's the simple kind of baseline stuff, so your core and stability and glutes and glutes medius, and making, I've got real dicky little calves, so making sure my calves actually recover after run sessions and trying to strengthen, doing plyo to make sure they don't just blow to pieces every time I do a fast run. But then also moving more into heavier lifting. Not that my lifting's very heavy, but I guess more power stuff and integrating that into sessions. So yeah, leg presses, single leg squats, hex bars are the bigger stuff you do, and then lots of kind of core and mobility and yeah, those things.
How do you, how often are you doing it? And then how you're recovering from those sessions? Because it's a recovery from it, because you can blow yourself up in the gym, but then you still got to go running and biking. So how often are you training, and then how does that fit with the rest of it?
So at the moment we do 2 gym sessions a week, and they will be fitted into certain bike sessions, really. So gym is always crossed over after quite a hard power session on the bike. So if I've got like a hard, strong, shorter interval power bike, then it'll be pretty much into the gym within the hour or 2 from that. Strength power after that, and then shut down recovery time. And the next day will probably more likely be just an endurance turnover, cruisy ride will be, or 4 or 5 hour kind of recovery. Well, I wouldn't say it's recovery, anything you go that long, but easier ride rather than anything powerful and explosive.
So we're a bit lucky here that we're in the mind of a pro athlete, because it's not every day that we get to delve deep into the pro world. But we see on your Instagram, we've talked about your social media and things, that you're out riding your bike or you're out running here and things, and everybody knows the miles and things that you're doing. But testing wise, how often are you testing to see where your performance is, and what processes are you using for your running, your cycling, and your swimming, and how do you gauge where your performance is at?
I mean, I've got probably pretty standard swim sessions that I know that if I'm in good swim form, what are we pulling them off? So, like 400s, 8 400s. I've got a pretty set time that I know that if I'm pulling off 8 400s in a good time, or my time, then that's a good window. And swimming's been something I haven't really in the last few years had to stress too much about. As long as I do my 4 or 5 sessions a week, I tend to be able to make that front bunch. Cycling has probably been the biggest mover in the last year and a half, and that's been obviously that's my weakness with an Ironman, and that's been obviously the biggest focus for us. So yeah, I mean, testing sessions are pretty much on the week, really. Like we've got a few different sessions that revolve, and there's sort of 1 or 2 base sessions that we'll pretty much repeat each week, that changes as we go through a block. But I guess these days you're pretty lucky to be able to get direct feedback within a session, and if you're good at reading the data and the metrics, then you can draw a pretty good picture or a graph of where your fitness is tracking compared to this time last year, or this time in the last block before the last big build. So Val uses lactate testing a lot, and would use that probably more than setting an FTP. So just working off lactate levels over an FTP, but and then running too. I mean, right now we haven't actually worried about running since the start of lockdown. I've just been kind of running to feel. Me being me, I've been running about 10k a week. Not a lot, as minimal as possible, but we'll get back into doing some longer runs, and then obviously back on the track, and getting back into the track is obviously the easiest place to do your set kind of efforts and see where you're tracking.
So numbers, some numbers.
Yeah,
what numbers have you got?
Numbers. I mean, if we're doing 400s, like 16 would be like 68 kind of seconds, somewhere around that, getting down to that. If we're doing 400s in the pool, maybe if we're doing 8 400s, we'd probably work from 5 minutes, coming in on 5 minutes, going down to like 440. and that would be probably vomit at the end of that session, or 100s, hundreds on kind of 105 to 110. And yeah, running's a hard one. Like, I mean, you do the track session, but then cycling. Oh, numbers. What do we do? Like an FTP. Well, FTP is a hard one. It's not awesome when you're an Ironman athlete, but probably around that 340, 345 mark for a 69 kilo person.
I just got that was the next question is what does he weigh? So 69 kilos. That's quite good.
Stop those biscuits and gin tonight and get on the trainer later on.
Is that for me or Angus? You telling me something there?
5 watts a kilo. So at 5 watts a kilo, you're sort of hanging on the back of the peloton in the main pro bunch just about, are you? If you're in the world cycle.
Well, if you're talking like an FTP, which is always hard. But like Jan Frodeno always said that he would win Kona if he could hold 4.1, 4.2 watts per kilo.
Right.
That's over 180. That's over 180k, not over an all-out 20-minute effort. So, it's pretty solid. What's that? 280 to 290 kind of watts would be my 4 watts per kilo for 180k. Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent.
How many were you holding on Zwift tonight, Richard?
Oh, all over the shop. I think I got above 340 at one point.
Exactly. It's all about those surges, eh?
Exactly. Just moments of glory. Yeah, absolutely. Braden, I want to talk a bit about recovery because you can't improve unless you recover. You've tried all sorts of different things, some altitude chambers, all sorts of things there. What are some of the things that you hold on to, your sort of pillars of recovery? What are some of the things that actually I've kind of given that up, I've tried it, doesn't really work for me?
Yeah. Nutrition. So diet, eating clean, eating simple, eating well after sessions, hydration, sleep, and everything else can pretty much go by the wayside. Like, if you can nail food, sleep, and hydration, then you'll be on a good ball. You know, obviously we've got Compex, we've got Nortec boots, we've got altitude tents, we've got training at altitude, we've got day naps, we've got ice baths, we've got pretty much we've had access to anything really, and I've definitely trialed a lot of them and been through the process with a lot of them, but I still just can't just get over the simple stuff. Like, if I could do the simple stuff better, I'd be an even better athlete. If I could sleep more, if I could recover better, if I could not go out and try and chainsaw down trees in between sessions or something, I'd be a lot better off as an athlete. So yeah, as a professional, obviously we have more ability to take that time out. If I could do that, probably even better, then I'd probably make some more gains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. Do you have an internet? Speaking of sleep,
no. I'm always trying to cram sessions in for a kid pickup.
You're doing your first winter for a while, aren't you? Hanging out down in Whaka, and how's that going for you?
It's been inversion for 4 days, which has been pretty miserable actually. Cloudy, grey, no sun, and frosted underneath all day. We're leading up to that. We've had a phenomenal start to winter. It's been beautiful, lots of long rides, and some great days out. But the last 4 days have brought back a bit of a reality check to what winter is like in New Zealand, and looking forward to actually winter really kicking in and hopefully getting rid of some of this humid inversion cloud. But it'll be interesting. You know, it's probably a lot more exciting for the kids at this point in time. You know, they haven't actually. I don't know if Bella, she now 7. I don't think she's seen a winter. in her whole life. So that'll be interesting for her. Tan saw a few when he was a bit younger, but yeah, not for a long time. So they're pretty excited. We're still holding on to the hope that maybe racing will get going in September. Maybe the borders might open and we could get to Australia and do a really good training block before the race in September. But at the moment it's looking like most of winter will be around here.
So when you if you do get racing again in September, I guess what does that look like for you? Obviously you go to Australia, go somewhere, but how does that go to line up this in that very first one? Because obviously when the world's been at its normal, you've always got a bit of a tab on what the opposition are doing, right? Because they're always racing here or racing there, and you can see results. But you guys have all just about been in the dark for some months now, and you're all going to roll up there without knowing where everyone's at.
Yeah, it'll add a different element. It'll be probably quite exposing. You might think you're fit, but really you're just drinking those stouts and enjoying winter a little bit too much. We'll see. It's I think the big thing for us, if we get racing again, it will be Ironman Cairns, so Asia Pacific Championships, and that's end of September. And I can't see all borders obviously being open. I don't see them being open next year, really. But I do see potentially Kiwis being able to go to Aussie and racing over there if we're lucky by September. So yeah, it'll be a true Asia Pacific Championships. There'll be all the Aussies, all the Kiwis, but probably not a whole lot of international athletes making it in. But yeah, within that, there's really good depth, and it'd be quite fun to be able to just race all those guys.
Next week on our show, we've got a Coast to Coast special, and we're actually leading with your brother, talking to Glenn, and I'm sure he's sort of been in your ear a little bit. Is there a Coast to Coast comeback happening? Where's the current sort of brother to brother conversation going on about that?
Oh, the scary thing is I'd have to ask him for an entry, and I know he'd charge me full price, and he probably wouldn't give me one either. So I'd refuse to pay him. So yeah, I probably won't be racing. I'd love to be back, but at the moment they're trying to say Ironman World Championships will be in February in Kona. So if that's go ahead, then I have a slot from Ironman New Zealand, so I'm all qualified and good to go for it. And obviously, if that goes ahead, then that'll have to be a priority at this point of time. But if they made it early call and said that wasn't on the cards, then who knows? Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. What's one or two key tips that you'd give to others based on your journey, your experience, for others to see how good they can go? And maybe that's two parts. There's like, hey, how good can I go? What's the tips there? But also somebody that's maybe a younger version of a Braden Currie right now going, I really want to be a pro triathlete. I want to do this full time as a cyclist or a runner, for example.
I think for the general kind of public who are into the sport and enjoy it, I guess a lot of it is, build those baselines, have that. Make sure you love it. Make sure it is what you want to, make your hobby and your spare time, which most people do. Consistency. Don't get stressed about the big picture. Just worry about, don't even worry. Just do what you've got to do each day, and have that belief that come race day you'll be there. Because I think that's, for me, it's just that belief that if you just do the little things each day, then you'll make it to the race start, and it'll be a whole lot more fun than stressing about that big picture and whether you're actually fit enough, because you will be. Your mind's incredible, and it's amazing what it'll carry you through. For the young Braden Curries out there, stop now. I don't want to be challenged. don't come after me. It's not. Nah.
You know that do the opposite of it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure Richard Usher tried the same trick, but didn't stop me. Just give it, really. have fun with it. You'll learn so much, and it's an incredible journey to take. No matter what happens, whether you turn into a businessman afterwards or whatever your next career is. Like it's a lot of fun chasing, I guess, that ultimate goal of winning big races and being a successful athlete. It's a great journey and it's a fun journey. So yeah, give it a good crack and have some fun with it.
It is, and just right at the start, it's about a dream, isn't it? That's what you had right at the start. You had a dream. We're just going to have a crack at this. We're not sure how it's going to turn out, but that's where you've got to, and that's what you're saying to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, choose it and just chase it, and you don't have to know everything to start. Obviously, you'll learn everything as you go, and you'll learn it either a hard way or it'll come naturally to you. So yeah, enjoy it.
And just before we go, Richard's going to have a quick 5 questions for you in a second. But I just actually want to ask, Braden, I see everybody that's watching tonight or going to watch it on YouTube, podcast listeners, you'll just have to bear with us here. But on the top of your head right now is a Red Bull hat. We all know that Braden Currie is a Red Bull-sponsored athlete. What is that like to be a Red Bull-sponsored athlete? And every time you pull on your helmet or your whatever that's painted in Red Bull colours, is there a privilege that comes with that, or a special feeling being in amongst that Red Bull family?
It's an amazing, it's an incredible brand. At the end of the day, they're just what they've done globally within sport, and their belief that it's not about marketing, it's about supporting people to be the best that they can be is really their main belief within their athletes, and that will give them marketing and exposure at the end of the day. It creates a really positive team, and yeah, it is. It is a cool feeling to be able to be a team of 11 in New Zealand and just over 1,000 globally that are part of the team, and such a diverse kind of group of athletes. But really, the whole common goal is they're driven to giving you the ability to be the best you can possibly be, or wanting you to be the best you can possibly be. So yeah, it's a very strong brand like that, and it's definitely been an honor. It's been 5 odd years now I've been supported by Red Bull, and it's been great both ways. I've learned an incredible amount from them. As a professional athlete, they've taught me, I guess, how to be a lot more professional, and also, hopefully I've managed to bring a bit to their company too.
Good job, Braden. Right, quick 5 questions. Fancy meal or backcountry meal?
Isn't that all dependent on the environment? Would
you be cooking some craze on the that you caught?
I quite like good food. I have discovered I am a bit of a foodie these days, so good food. Yeah, I'll go good food all the time.
The fancy meal rather than okay. Run or bike?
Run.
Training morning or evening?
Morning.
Lake or sea?
Ocean.
Sweet or savoury?
Both.
Just one follows the other, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. They come together.
Yeah, good job. Well done, Braden. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so open, and all the best for your training. Pleased to hear it's going well, and enjoy that Whaka winter. Enjoy getting the family up the slopes, and we'll look forward to catching up again soon.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much, Braden. Good luck.
Cool. Well done. Thank you. Well done, Angus.
Absolutely insightful, isn't it? Isn't it always nice to, that's bloody amazing for Braden to give up his time, but to get that little bit of an insight into the pro athlete world, a genuine, I know you and I, Richard, we are at pro level in what we do here. And for those out there, like you mentioned before, the Currie family is not just represented by Braden, but Glenn himself, who's also been a podium getter at the Coast to Coast, and now the Kathmandu Coast to Coast race director. He will be joining us next week, so a bit of a Currie fest there.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's good. It's going well. Shall we move along? We've got a few different things to do. Actually, we've got a trig bagging competition we want to draw. But before that, we're going to jump into Laura. Is she in the background there, Laura?
No, she's going to be in the foreground there. Look at that.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Laura, come in. How you doing?
Hi, team. Yeah, good. And you?
Yeah, good, thanks. We want to have a bit of a spotlight on you. How are you doing? CP athlete, you've been working together for about a year or so now, but you've done some pretty amazing things, haven't you? Started off with Whaka 100. I want to learn to ride my mountain bike downhill better. Go and do that race on a single track and keep the skin on my knees. And then in February you ran an ultra.
Yeah.
Really fast.
Yeah. Ticked off 2 big ones there. So, mountain biking is something I have been doing for long, and I definitely no secret I can be a bit of a nana on the downhill and stuff. So, probably one of those slightly annoying riders that might zoom up the hill, but then you have to pass me again when you come back down when I chicken out. So getting in the mileage and stuff was a lot better. Spending quite a good few sessions with you out in the Port Hills and stuff, and sort of gaining that confidence in that. It was good. There was still a couple of hiker bike moments, but on the whole, I was pretty happy with what I rode. In the end. So, and I managed to bike across the river crossing at the end. So,
Angus probably going to flash that photo up again of me.
Where's that photo? Where is our photo there, Richard? God, I should just always...
bottom of it. I mean, that's the thing as a coach, to try and teach people what not to do, and so that's looking good at the right moments rather than not so flash. That's cool. And so train really hard. You did well for that. It was a really it built some good strength and things. And then out of that, you're like, okay, now I want to be a runner. So Whaka 100 in October, and then you had the Old Ghost Ultra in February to say, okay, well, let's get into that. How'd the training go for that?
It was good, I suppose. I found that interesting, in the fact that we did, I suppose, training for Whaka was, as it should be, a massive focus on biking, and we were running once a week actually, and that's all we were doing was about 1 8K run a week, just because we knew that the ultra was sort of in the background, but there was a lot of biking, and then to have to just switch that with about 3.5 months to go to then go and run 85K was, sort of getting your head around, for me, I suppose, that confidence of, is this possible if I bitten off too much? We chipped away at it and got that endurance going, and got some really cool missions, I suppose. Talked about, and a big motivator for me is keeping it fun. And so our plan together has always been, what missions or what things motivate me. And so New Year's was Queen Charlotte track as a bit of a training mission, ran that. And then...
the whole length of the Queen Charlotte? How much did you do?
Yeah, but over 2 days that time. But ran the whole lot. Yep. And then we did the St. James Walkway in a day. Was our final training mission. There's a bit of juggle at the time. That was 65, I think. Ended up being 65K in that day. Yeah. I'd say it was a jog hike, but So that side of it was good. There was, I suppose, training for me. I've since had a bit of a change in career, but I've always had to balance after hours commitments and a weeknight and weekend duty. So some of my training, or when we would want to peak, I can't. So leading into Old Ghost, I know, ideally if we would have done that, say 4 weeks out, push it to 3 weeks out, and there's been a few things like that sort of, I suppose, just have to work around life. We get our plan to work around life. So it's just realizing what that side of it goes. So I suppose before that, I suppose the St. James Walkway was the longest I'd ever run or been on my feet for that side, from that running side of it before. In one stint. So then 3 weeks later, I had to go and run 85. So
that's awesome. So you do quite a bit of training with Tim, your partner. He's cruised around the St. James Walkway, and then you guys are standing on the start line together of the Old Ghost Ultra as well. Talk us through your Old Ghost Ultra day. How did that go?
Good. So I kind of had a few goals in mind, I suppose, and we'd worked out a bit of a pacing plan to see if that would work. I very much, I suppose, when races like that, I race them for me, and I race them to see what I can do. And I suppose the ones I pick are things that will put me out of my comfort zone. So the focus was, I suppose, on me, and I had my sort of pacing goals and sort of thought, okay, had an idea in my head, got going, and then I got to the first checkpoint earlier than I thought I would, and I was a bit nervous that I was going to blow up. and then the second one, that's when you run a marathon and you sort of got to get your head around, you've got to run another one. So but I was, I suppose, focused on the eating and the drinking, and I just kept asking myself, can I hold it? Can I hold what I'm doing? Can I not hold what I'm doing? I feel like I can. I'll find out if I can't. So I was willing to find out if it was going to go boom or not go boom. And what made that day super fun, as much fun as an ultra can be, was we had a really cool women's field there, and we came into transition 2 or checkpoint 2, and I thought I was on my own, and the next one there's 5 of us all in there, and one go, all quite competitive with each other. So next thing, you are trying to be quick in those aid stations and zoom out. So then there was her name was Helena, and I remember she had a pink t-shirt on, and I had caught up to her and gone and thought, okay, usually in these long races you get more of a gap, or things sort of settle down, and every time I looked over my shoulder she was there. So it's thanks to her that I sort of pushed myself as far as I did, and having those races within a race, and just made it a heck of a lot of fun. Rightfully so, she picked me in the last 5k which is awesome. But without her I wouldn't have run the time I'd run either. So every time I was going to relax and look over my shoulder, then I thought, okay, cool, I'll just keep trying. And we had a nice little group of 3 of us run out at the end, and it was awesome. Yeah, I really 8 hours 56. So wasn't there. So,
well done. And and Tim, he was expecting that he was in front of you as well.
Oh yes, it was quite So we started, and I thought that I had been in front of him the whole day. So I thought when we had started, I didn't see him. He started behind me, just behind the start line. I never saw him go, but it was a whole lot of people. But I never saw him run in front. So I thought I was in front the whole day. Didn't I suppose thinking much of it. And then Tim thought he knew that he had passed me, but he didn't see me again. So he thought that I was behind him the whole day. And then it wasn't until I got to the finish line, and he's like, "Oh, when did you pass me?" But turns out he used every aid station toilet. So we figured there must have been a time when he was in there. He must have snuck past.
Just whistled past. That's so good. So what's the next goal now, Laura? Where are you up to now?
Well, we had, I suppose, before, again, the lockdown thing. Before lockdown, our plan was to hit the Christchurch Marathon, and then maybe the Auckland one. So it's been a long time since I've run a pure road marathon. In some ways, they scare me more than an ultra, because I think, although shorter, the pain is more real. So that obviously got all put aside. So a bit of the planning now going forward is maybe looking at the Mount Cook one, and then working towards Queenstown. Running those. So the focus definitely is, at the moment, I'm really enjoying, I've done the multi-sport, I suppose, and definitely would be keen to do more multi-sport stuff, but focusing on the one and the running has been a goal of mine for a while, and being able to just focus on one discipline is fitting in, A, with lifestyle, and B, it's quite interesting to see what you can do when you just do one discipline instead of 4. So big running, I suppose, running goals and marathon times I want to try and chew off. I've got a specific time in mind, and it's somewhere around 3 hours 19 and maybe 3 hours 18, which is going to be a minute faster than Richard's time.
You heard that too.
And if I run 3:18, then I want Richard to run another one. So
there you go. Throw it out there.
Yeah.
I hope it's a windy, cold, horrible, rainy day with a headwind. We'll see. No, you're going well. Looking forward to cheering on and seeing how good you can actually go, because had a super run through Old Ghost, and it's going to be cool to see how you end up actually finishing up at that 3:19.26. I think we need you to run. No faster.
Yeah. That'll be So and then pretty much that's my key motivator, get Richard back on the start line.
I love the sound of that.
All right, good stuff. Well, well done, and thanks for sharing that, and look forward to seeing how good you can go.
Cool. And I'm really hoping Cushla's talk is for nighttime snacking and eating is that it's a good thing, because I do a lot of that.
We'll see.
Awesome. Oh, thanks,
Good
team.
job. Look after yourself. Take care.
Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.
Good job. Well done.
There's no better segue than what Laura's just brought us there for Cushla's Corner, where we move to next. And we are talking about nighttime snacking. And we did have this little talk beforehand that she just knows how to pick all the subjects that I'm really good at, Richard. I haven't she really likes to involve me in these things.
Oh, she's just trying to get you to be a better athlete and maybe turn pro, as you were mentioning earlier, that, hey, there's still a chance.
You think there's still a chance?
You thought there was still a chance earlier, I think, the way you were looking.
So I thought there's a chance. You don't think there's a chance. I see where that's going, Roger.
Moving along. Yeah. Good stuff. Cushla, I think we need to bring her straight in.
Hello. Leading on from Laura, it's actually a very common topic that's raised with many people I work with, and that's exactly why I wanted to talk about it tonight, is the nighttime eating and the snacking after dinner.
Yeah, you were saying the other day that like probably 90-odd% of people that you work with.
Just hold there. For the viewers out there, the podcast people aren't getting it. Laura, we're just bringing you back in straight off the interview, and you're into a bag of M&Ms. This is some of the best nutrition I've ever seen.
You're making me feel hungry. I'd love it to share.
Oh,
Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
Gone again straight away. Cushla, talk to us. What you've there's some recent studies been out as well, I think you were mentioning.
Yeah, well, I will come to that. There's one in particular recently that I'll try and summarize in an interesting way to kind of get across the key points. But yeah, the nighttime snacking, it's a very common thing that pops up a lot with people I talk to, whether it's, I just feel like I have huge dinners, or I have my dinner, but then I just can't get rid of these sweet cravings, or I just eat too much after dinner. Like, it's a very common thing for a lot of people. So I was going to talk about that, and I guess give people a few tips to think about that could be leading to that overeating in that evening time. So firstly, I guess that if you're struggling with the nighttime period, particularly feeling like you just can't get enough food in because you're just so hungry, it's always good to look at the first half of your day. So what's your breakfast looking like? What's your lunch looking like? And very commonly they're inadequate in a lot of people, either just not enough food or really lacking protein. And then what happens is when breakfast is inadequate, lunch is hit and miss or maybe even skipped, is then you're just ravenous by dinner time and you just can't seem to get enough because your body is trying to compensate for its lack of nutrition through the whole day. So that's a very common theme I see. Another one is that it's just a plain habit. And people, they always have their cup of tea and some biscuits, or they have their ice cream, Richard.
I should go with beer.
Yeah.
So that's very common too, so habits. And then the other one would be just more on that sort of emotional eating or stress eating, not eating for hunger, but eating because you're just really anxious or you've had a really hard day, or
Make you feel better.
Yeah, and typically that nighttime eating or snacking isn't on fruit and vegetables. It's on, those highly processed, high energy, high sugar foods like your crisps and your ice cream, chocolate, M&Ms, things like that. And yeah, it's obviously not the best thing to be doing before bedtime, preferably for the body.
Do we have time to understand? So I don't want to air my dirty laundry on the show here all the time, but Cushla, I do have this problem, and I am a real bad evening eater and snacker. But I also have another little issue, one of many. But once I start, I can't stop. So once I get in that mode, and I almost get in a depressional spiral where I'm this far deep, I might as well keep eating the rest of the packet of biscuits. But is there something in that triggers that continuous, once you start, you can't stop thing?
Yeah, potentially. There's a few things. I mean, it depends how hungry you are when you start eating, because if you've already had dinner and you're just snacking, then the foods you're reaching for, like those high sugar foods, they're almost highly addictive. And often in the evenings, we're sitting somewhere we're distracted. So we might be watching telly, we might be on our laptop or on our phone, and we're not even really conscious we're putting the food in our mouth. We're just shoveling it in, and then suddenly the whole packet's gone. So that would be one thing to consider. And the other thing would be, is it before a meal when you should just be eating a proper meal, or is it after a meal and you're eating for other reasons? Would be a couple of key points there.
Yeah.
And yeah, the food you're eating, you know, if it's a packet of crisps, those sort of things, it's so hard just to have one. Or yeah, so they're designed to, you know, you just keep eating because they're just so delicious.
Will only come in one packet normally.
Yeah, yes. And the other key tip would be never have an open bag of like crisps or lollies sat beside you. Take what you want and then move away or put it back, because if you have it there beside you, you're probably going to eat the whole packet. Yeah.
And you've got to think about it, getting up out of your seat, going round to go and get another a handful of M&Ms to come back round and sit back down again. And
yeah.
I mean, depending on how high your motivation is, most of us would get that done. But at least we can rationally thinking about that as we do it.
And call it a session walking there and back at the same time, right?
Push go on Strava. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the study I just wanted to touch on, I just think it's really interesting. And although it's not completely relevant, a lot of the points I think are good food for thought. So the study was done, it's a very small study. So again, you know, there's limitations. And it was done on a group of 28 type 2 diabetics requiring insulin. But the really interesting thing was that they were blinded to 2 different diets over 12 weeks. One group ate 3 meals a day, with having quite a big breakfast, like a 700-calorie breakfast was quite high carb, a medium lunch of about 600 calories, and then a tiny dinner of about 200 calories. Whereas the other group did the more traditional dietary intake, so, you know, the 3 meals a day and 3 snacks, with their last snack being at about 10 p.m. at night. And over the 12 weeks, the group that just had the 3 meals a day and finished eating their dinner at about 7 p.m. and that was it, lost on average 5 to 6 kgs. They had better blood, quite a lot. They had better blood glucose control. In terms of their diabetes, they required less insulin. And the really interesting thing was they had significant reductions in cravings and hunger on the hunger scale in the afternoon and evening, which I think is, probably the key point to take away from that. And again, that supports not only other studies, but also the expression of, I have it written here because I always forget it. It's breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper, which everyone's probably heard of before, but it does support that. And I think, again, it just supports that we, as a culture, often overindulge in the evenings, whether it's because it's convenient or we skip lunch or it's a social thing. And I'm not saying it's, you know, go and enjoy a dinner and go out with friends and all that, of course, but most of the time we do probably eat a bit too much in the evening period.
Yeah, cool. That's really good. I like that. Eat like a king for breakfast. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Normally 3 things in my house then. Breakfast, lunch and dinner, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, Cushla. No, that's really good.
Right. Very good. We know what time it is, don't you, Cushla?
Lunchbox time.
Lunchbox
for another week. Thank you, as always, for joining us.
Cushla, maybe what we should do, we should bring you in on, we've got our trig bagging competition that we've got coming up, and we've got a pure prize pack. I've just got a whole bunch of pure stuff right here. And maybe, Angus, you've got a list, have you? Have you got it there of our trig bagging competition? Maybe what you could do is help us draw a bit of a winner there. So we've got, basically what we did was we said every time you got to a trig, you managed to went in the draw again for another entry into this Pure Sport Nutrition prize pack. So what I want from you is a number between 1 and 100.
My lucky number's 10, so I'll go with 10.
10. Well, that means Nadia Turner right at the top of the list. 18 entries gets us just like that. Well, that's probably almost fair, to be honest. They did a lot of work, Nadia and Natasha Richardson.
Correct.
And
Richard, just hold us up that prize pack again there, Richard.
Yeah, right. Sorry. So I got a whole bunch of different stuff here. All that stuff. Lots of gels.
Brilliant. Big thank you to our sponsor for the trig bagging competition, Pure Nutrition. Thank you to them.
Nice, good stuff. Well done, Cushla. You, Nadia can thank you as well.
Yeah, well done, Nadia.
Good job. Awesome. Thanks heaps. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome. Bye.
Cool, thanks heaps. Yeah. Nice work. And let's just wrap up that trig bagging competition, shall we? Got a couple of photos in the background there. So let's Nadia and Natasha. No, wrong one.
Right one.
Let's go this
Get the right one.
So they just 18 trigs over the course of 2 weekends. Pretty impressive. All sorts. They said, do we get an extra prize for the amount of blackberry and gorse we managed to battle through to get to the top of these trigs and find them, jump over farmers' paddocks and all sorts. I don't think they were arrested during a time, but they went hard. It was pretty impressive.
Oh, I'm super stoked the way that they've taken that challenge on and really just, gone and found all these trigs. It's terrific.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. And the next one, the highest trig was our next competition. Darren de Groot went hard. There was Jan Sipple headed up her local hill, which is Little Mount Peel, which was at 1,300 vertical meters. And Darren said, okay, well, I need to win that. I need to get there. Knowing that that Natasha and Nadia had probably taken out the most trigs, he's like, right, I'm going to do the highest trig. So a bit of a story here. He got up at 3 a.m, thought he did his research. There's a trig on top of Mount Fife, which is in the background, drove to Kaikoura, hiked up the hill. The conditions were awful, as you can see. It was snowing. Maybe there's even a bit of ice on his beard there, and went and bagged the trig for the competition. How good.
That's an absolute commitment.
That's it. Took a day out and had an adventure out of his comfort zone, but pleased to hear that he got home in one piece.
Excellent. Well, Rich, we nearly need to wrap it up, but I'm just going to end with one interesting fact tonight. As you know, I've sort of been following the Everesting world of late.
After the Everesting challenges that we did earlier on.
Following on from all of our Everesting challenges and things. And yet again, the record, the Everesting record, male record has been broken. A fortnight ago, Australian Lachlan Morton, who's a pro cyclist for EF Education First, he set to this morning at 6 a.m. They got up and decided they'd go and do it, and they broke the record and made it to 7 hours 30 minutes. Now, that didn't actually, it lasted about 2 days, and they had it taken back from them. And what had happened is that the Strava section that they'd used had some glitch in it somewhere, and they were like, I don't know, I think they were 100 meters or 200 meters short of an actual Everesting, so it didn't actually count.
So Everesting, just going back to that, Everesting is how many, like the same number of vertical meters as Everest in one hit, up and down, generally doing reps of a certain hill climb, 8,848 vertical meters. So taking 7 hours to do that, which is epic.
Correct. 7 hours, 30 minutes is what he did, but they were a couple of 100 meters short on their little section they had. So not to be outdone, he that was like a fortnight ago. Well, in the weekend, so exactly 1 week later, they set to it again and to actually put it on record. So the new record now from Lachlan Morton in Australia is 7 hours and 29 minutes. So not only did he repeat the effort 1 week later, he took another minute out of it, and as a recovery ride the next day, he went for a 4-hour ride.
Perfect. I think we should tell Braden Currie about that at 69 kilos and a pretty honest power to weight ratio. I think he'd do okay. Maybe if he's still listening, we'll throw it out there.
He hasn't got much else on his plate, right? Although
no, he's all about cycling right now. It'd be perfect.
Anyhow, so that's news of the world. And that's probably us, Rich.
Yeah, well done. Thank you. Good episode. Lots of good insights. I learned lots. This is fantastic. So, yeah, keep up the good work. Well done clicking the buttons. And until next week, we've got a coast-to-coast special to talk about.
And I'm not sure if I'll be here next week, Richard, because I found this new function that allows us to play a little video clip. And so we're going to go out on this little video clip. There could be a repercussion to this, and I may not be here next week. Thank you all for tuning in. Same bat channel, same bat time. Catch us over on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications for any other videos that we upload, over on Facebook, Instagram, all of those things. But see you here next Wednesday.
Over and out.